Is the meeting live or just recorded? It's live. I was going to mention that, but you can mention it too. One of us will remember. You don't have to talk about that. There was more people that did it tonight. I'm certainly not here yet. When I left the room, it was pretty empty. So it was a big one. I'm going to go it was quick on. People are still finishing. Well, I was going to rush people out of it. That's certainly reasonable. I won't start without you. Promise. Thank you, sir.
Are you saving those?
Yeah, I got that many friends here. Yeah, right. Yeah.
No, I'm not.
I'm really glad for the people that it was so nasty. It was just.
They could, I suppose.
Well, that project went down.
when you go to do your presentation, I'll move my folder here.
I just need.
Because we can put the keyboard you had right here, which is fine.
Yep. I just need right here. I got this. This is my own.
Sure.
So, well, we got it right. We got 3 colors. Now we're going to start really late.
I know.
Because
There's nothing you can do because otherwise if you do what we should do is, I was thinking that there was going to be more people checking names in. That would be very helpful. Because I know we shuffled it to just be A through C and A through D, but then it's D through D.
well, they're all even now as far as number of people.
Oh, okay.
I did that work. I took it.
That's good.
Did a spreadsheet.
But we should have maybe 5 people or something.
Yeah. Yeah. She asked for 4 sections, so that's what I gave her.
Maybe there's 4. Okay.
Well, add a fifth. Yeah. On 6. This is just awful. And the line goes down.
Really?
That's terrible.
Still.
Well, it 2 minutes ago.
I'm just going to let people know that we're ready to commence. Folks, I just wanted to let you know there is still quite a line out back, and so we're just trying to wait till the line diminishes a little bit. Those mics, do they go to the audience or do they change I almost think that we're not going to have to do them.
Will you?
Yes. I'm trying to remember to sit down.
I know exactly where you are.
We had a glimmer when they cut it to one.
At least you got a good turnout tonight.
Yeah.
And notice that the first 2 lines, there's nobody at them, and the other 2 lines, so there's nobody. And yet, we know it's...
Well, from last year, there'd be a whole new population.
Yeah.
Yes, true.
So I was wondering
That's back when they did Grand Slam. Exactly right. I still haven't forgiven our congressional.
How are you? Yeah.
I'll never forgive them for it. That was one of the
I mean, it's always a little late starting.
You betcha. There's no backing, doesn't it? Hey, how are you?
Spaghetti dinner. We've done it for a couple
6:35, all in the same line, of course.
You're gonna see Paul.
Did you get straight whether someone from the Conservation Commission was going to talk?
He's ready to talk.
But were we going to for sure do it or just do it if needed?
Just do it. Well, what did you say? Someone from the Conservation?
And they're always welcome to come to the mic anyway, as just a general speaker.
His name's Eric McCarthy.
Yeah. If I know what it looks like ahead of time, that would be great. Okay. I understand. I didn't, they're like right at the front. I didn't even notice. If you're falling asleep, I'm gonna know.
I'm not about to know.
No.
So when do you get started? When everybody's in? Or?
No, I think if we get the last couple, if we get down to say 5, 6 people, then I'm going to bring the Boy Scouts in and we'll go at that point. Because while we're doing the pledge and stuff, I just don't want people talking and people trying to move in and go after moving stuff.
Wanted to make sure I was here for tonight. So I figured you probably would. Concerned about traffic delays.
Looks like you had a good trip.
Looks like you had a good trip from a couple of places I saw. You were having fun.
Good deal.
I'm glad we came on through Charlotte instead of through Philadelphia.
Yes.
Philadelphia was closed down. We came in through the international terminal from Jamaica. There was a plane from Madrid and one from someplace else in Europe. They landed about the same time. They were both supposed to go to Philadelphia. They landed in Charlotte. So that's why the people were on the wrong airport. Trying to figure out how to get rerouted.
I used to fly fairly regularly. Nowadays, I miss it.
I'm just shocked that it's all last year was a big killer.
And again, all I could use is last year.
Here's what it is. What do you think? There's about 10 people back there? You think we're ready to go? All right, there's a few people in line, but I think we're just in the interest of time, we're going to get started here. I'd like to welcome everybody to the annual Essex Town Meeting. I'm Steve Eustace, your moderator for the night. And I'm going to first start by calling the Essex Boy Scout Troop 635 up to the front of the room for the colors. Yes.
Color guard, halt.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Two.
Please stay standing for a moment of silence for all first responders and servants.
Color guard, post color. Color guard, return to ranks.
All right, thank you.
Color guard, retreat.
All right, I'm going to ask Sue Cook from the Select Board to come up and make a statement for town meeting.
Hi, everybody. Welcome tonight. I am Sue Cook. I am currently the clerk on the Essex Select Board, so I get to welcome everybody here tonight. It is an honor to be here. Before we start, I'd like to just ask us all to pause, and I'm going to read some words that are borrowed from the Danville Town Attorney, Toby Billeve. It's called An Eloquent Invocation to Civility. It comes from the book All Those in Favor by Susan Clark and Frank Bryan. We are gathered together in civil assembly. We gather as a community in the oldest sense of the word. We gather to come together and try to make decisions about what is right and what is wrong. Let us advocate for our positions, but not at the expense of others. Let us remember that there is an immense gap between saying I am right and saying I believe I am right. And that our neighbors with whom we disagree are good people with hopes and dreams as true and high as ours. And let us always remember that in the end, caring for each other in this community is of far greater importance than any difference that we may have. Thank you for being here this evening.
Thank you, Sue. Next, I'm going to introduce the Select Board Chair, Max Levy.
Thank you, Steve. I would like to also welcome everyone to tonight's town meeting. It is an honor to be here with you all. I will do my best to be louder. How's that? Okay. Thanks for that kind reminder. I hope everyone had a chance to have the dinner before the meeting. That's something that we borrowed from the village trustees that have been doing that for a long time. We've done it, I think this is our 4th or 5th year. And thank you. And for those of you with young children, the Parks and Rec department has childcare. It started at 7 for children. And the senior bus was also available for those that could benefit from the senior bus. To help inform the public in advance of tonight's meeting about the budget, about the other articles that are warned, about the Conservation Fund and the funding of the Conservation Fund, the Select Board held 12 outreach events going with Q&As about these items to places where the residents congregate, mostly at sporting events at the high school and some other places. So hopefully we were able to reach some of you in advance of tonight's meeting. For those that didn't get that information, there are several handouts in the back of the room. There are Q&As about the town budget, Conservation Fund Q&As. There's a short town meeting survey from the Select Board, and also includes some phrases that you're going to hear tonight, like Robert's Rules of Order and Point of Order and so on. There's also a Dole survey, although he hasn't been a member of the legislature for some time now. There's a Dole survey in the back. If you could fill that out, that would be wonderful. And Channel 17 is here tonight doing live stream in HD, so thank you, Channel 17, for being here. Next, I'd like to introduce the Select Board. To my right, we have Irene Renner. Next to Irene is Mike Plagueman, who's the Vice Chair. Next to Mike is Sue Cook, the Select Board Clerk, who you just met, and Andy Watts. And now I'd like to introduce the head table here of staff. To my left here is the new Unified Municipal Manager, Evan Teach. Next to him is Deputy Manager Greg Duggan. Then we have Lauren Marisso, who's the Finance Director. And Susan McNamara Hill, who's the Clerk. And last but not least, Sarah Michelle Stultz, who's our Recording Secretary. I would also like to recognize some distinguished guests, and we have from the village trustees tonight, we have George Tyler, if he's the president of the trustees, if he could, there he is. Elaine Sopchak, who's the village vice president. Andrew Brown, member of the trustees in the back there. Hello, Andrew. And we have Dan Karen, trustee. Hello, Dan. And also Lori Houghton, who's not only a trustee, but also a Vermont State Rep. And there she is. We have some additional Vermont State representatives here tonight. We have Representative Dylan Giambattista. I think I got it right this year. Yes. Betsy Dunn, who is also a representative, unfortunately had some family needs that she needed to take care of and is not able to join us. We do have two senators from Chittenden County. We have Michael Sorotkin and Chris Pearson. Where are you? There you are in the back. Welcome. Good to have you here. And we also have Representative Linda Myers. And tonight I'm very pleased to report we have a very special guest way in the back there. It's the newly retired municipal manager, Pat Scheidel. I'm going to ask Pat if he could come down just for a moment.
Want him in the front?
Is this connected? Yes, it is. Good. Can we have the trustees down here too, please? So as you all know, Pat Scheidel recently retired just about a week ago. That's why you see him smiling so and glowing. But a while back, the trustees and select board got together and we put together a resolution of appreciation for his many years of service. And I'd like to ask the clerk, Sue Cook, if she would read that to you. And that's what's printed here in the frame.
Thank you. And if you can't hear me, let me know. I'll try to speak loudly. All right. This is our resolution in appreciation of Patrick C. Scheidel. Whereas Patrick C. Scheidel was hired as town manager for the town of Essex on November 26, 1990, And whereas Patrick was hired as village manager for the village of Essex Junction on July 1st, 2013. And whereas by concurrently serving as the town and village manager, Patrick became the first unified municipal manager for Essex since 1970. And whereas Patrick will retire, or did retire, on February 28, 2018, concluding more than 27 years of dedicated service and leadership to the entire Essex community. And whereas by serving as the municipal manager for Essex and Essex Junction, Patrick helped launch and oversee the latest ongoing consolidation efforts between the town and village. And whereas Patrick has been an integral part of Essex growth and culture, having served the community with great integrity, and whereas Patrick has effectively and successfully mentored many individuals throughout his career, and whereas Patrick has demonstrated outstanding leadership skills in managing and supervising the municipal workforce, always with empathy, fairness, and excellent sense of humor. And whereas Patrick is recognized for his many contributions to Vermont municipal government, including as a board member and president of the Vermont Property and Casualty Intermunicipal Fund, PASIF, as a member of the Vermont Town and City Management Association, as chair of the University of Vermont Master of Public Administration Advisory Committee, and as a member of the Joint Study Committee for Chittenden County Regional Dispatch. And, page 2, whereas Patrick has received numerous awards for his work in municipal government, including the ASPA Walton Award for Excellence in Public Service, the ICMA 25-Year Service Award, the Vermont Managers Association Outstanding Achievement Award, the Vermont Managers Association Distinguished Service Award, and the Vermont League of Cities and Towns Municipal Service Award. And whereas Patrick has contributed to the greater community as a member of the Fanny Allen Hospital Corporation Board of Directors, a member of the Governor's Rail Council, and a member and president of Essex Rotary. And whereas Patrick has honorably served his country as a hospital corpsman in the U.S. Navy during the Vietnam War, now, therefore, be it resolved that the Select Board and the Board of Trustees, on behalf of the staff and citizens of the town of Essex, including the village of Essex Junction, hereby extend our most sincere appreciation to Patrick for a lifetime of committed public service and more than 27 years of making Essex a better community in which to live and work.
I'd like to invite Representative Linda Myers up. She has one more thing for you, Pat, that you didn't know about. So, hang on.
And I'd like to ask Lori Houghton and Dylan to join me. We have a resolution from the Senate and the House of Representatives for Pat Scheidel. House concurrent resolution honoring Patrick C. Scheidel for his exemplary 27-year career as Essex Town Manager, offered by Representatives Myers of Essex, Bancroft of Westford, Dunn of Essex, Giambanisa of Essex, and Houghton of Essex. Whereas the role of town manager is central to a smooth administration of town government. And whereas, after growing up in Connecticut, Pat Scheidel served our country as a naval corpsman stationed aboard the USS New Jersey off the Vietnam coast. Whereas upon his honorable discharge from the U.S. Navy, Pat Scheidel pursued an academic path, earning an undergraduate degree in English and political science at Trinity College in Hartford, Connecticut, and a master's in public administration from Syracuse University. And whereas during his early municipal public service career in Connecticut, Pat Scheidel served as administrative assistant to the Mansfield town manager and then as the Groton assistant town manager. And whereas departing his home state for neighboring Rhode Island, he's been around, Pat Scheidel served as the administrative assistant to the Mansfield town manager and then as the Groton assistant town manager. Oh, I read that. Okay, sorry about that. He's now in New Hampshire. He's now in Rhode Island. Pat accepted the post of Narragansett town manager, subsequently traveling west to serve in similar roles in Washington and Illinois. And whereas in 1990, Pat Scheidel became the Essex town manager. And whereas for the next 27 years, he performed this role magnificently. And whereas his original jurisdiction was limited to overseeing the Essex town municipal government, but starting in 2013, he also assumed the managerial helm for the village of Essex Junction. And whereas Vermont municipalities beyond Essex benefited from Pat's managerial expertise through his board membership at the Vermont Town and City Management Association, as well as his nearly quarter-century involvement with the Vermont Property and Casualty Intermunicipal Fund, including 20 years as the organization's president. And whereas he was the 2015 recipient of the Vermont League of Cities and Towns Municipal Service Award, and whereas among his other community roles have been serving on the Governor's Rail Council, on the board of the former Fanny Allen Hospital, and as Essex Rotary President. And whereas Pat Scheidel has now concluded his laudable tenure as Essex Town Manager, now therefore be it resolved by the Senate and House of Representatives that the General Assembly honors Patrick C. Scheidel for his exemplary 27-year career as Essex Town Manager and more recently municipal manager, and be it further resolved, the Secretary of State send a copy of this resolution to Patrick Scheidel.
I would just like to thank you all for all of the support that you have provided, not only me, but the good people that are here every single first Monday in March. Somebody a whole lot smarter than me said that you don't work a day in your life if you love the work that you do, and it has been that way for me here, so thank you very much.
All right, time for the town meeting rules. Robert's Rules is the basic rules of order for this meeting, except where Vermont law takes precedence. The body cannot change state law, but can change Robert's Rules with a 2/3 vote if desired. All motions, remarks, and discussion should be addressed to me. Please stand up, wait for one of the microphones in either aisle. Then give your name and speak in a loud voice so that your comments may be heard by everyone. An article must be moved, seconded, and restated by me before it is under consideration and debate on the article may begin. Articles may be amended and amendments amended once. Amendments must be germane. A division of the House can be requested by the moderator or one voter before or after a voice vote. State law allows 7 people to request a paper ballot unless this body has made other arrangements. Debate may be cut off by a motion of 2/3 vote by calling the question. The person making this motion must have the floor at a microphone. Reconsideration of an article is allowed by state law until we reach a point in the meeting where another article is under consideration. This means if you have voted down an article, a motion can be made to reopen consideration of that article by a person on the prevailing side. However, once I have placed another article before you, no more action can be taken regarding that article at this meeting. State law prohibits consideration of articles that have not been warned. This means you cannot take binding action at the end of the meeting during Article 5, public to be heard. My role as moderator is to help you accomplish the business that you intend to do. Please raise your hand and ask questions if you don't understand what is happening, if you think what is happening is wrong, or if you want to do something but don't know technically how to proceed. And please tell me if I'm ruling improperly. Above all, as we heard before, be civil and respectful of your neighbors' opinions. I'd like to remind people who aren't registered voters of Essex to sit in the back area. And assuming there's no objection from anyone in the audience, we'll allow town employees who do not live in Essex to speak, to answer questions from the audience. All right, so that's the rules. So we'll head on into the 5 articles that we have before us this evening. The first, Article 1. Shall the reports of the officers be accepted? That is in the book. Do I hear a motion for Article 1? What's the name? Paula Duke was moved, and what was your second? Justin Brousseau. Dustin, excuse me. All right, would anybody like to comment on Article 1? If they do, come down to the microphones in the aisle. Okay, seeing no comments, we can move forwards to voting on Article 1. People that are, I'm going to give the instructions first. So if you're in favor of Article 1, you're going to signify by saying aye. And if you're going to be against it, signify by saying nay. Okay? I'm going to restate the article. Article 1, shall the reports of the officers be accepted? All those in favor of Article 1 signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Article 1 passes unanimously. All right, we'll move on to Article 2. Shall the town adopt a budget for the fiscal year July 1, 2018 to June 30, 2019, as recommended by the Select Board in the amount of $14,299,932? Do I have a motion for Article 1? Linda Myers moved. Article 2. Do we have a second? Paula Duke again. All right. Before we begin debate on Article 2, the chair of the Select Board wanted to give a brief presentation on the budget.
Thank you, Steve. As I've done in the past, as the Select Board has done in the past, we've put together a slide presentation to go through the highlights of the proposed budget. I'll try to go through it rather quickly so it doesn't take too long, but there is one page in here that I'm going to pause on. There's a fair amount of material on there that I think it's important for you to see. So here's a list of town services that were previously consolidated with the village to provide greater efficiencies in service delivery. And the top ones, the police and senior bus, were done quite a while ago. I think the police was back in the early 80s, and the senior bus was at least 15 years ago or so. Then in the FYE 14 budget, that's when we started with the unified town and village manager, when Pat took that helm. Then there's been many other services consolidated over the past 4 years. And last year there was an opportunity to consolidate the clerk's office when the town clerk, the long-term town clerk, Cheryl Moomey, had retired. So that was then consolidated. Looking to this year's budget, the area to focus on for consolidation, there are two. One is human resources being proposed for consolidation in this budget. And we're looking at alignment of the town and village fire departments. Now, this is not about consolidation of the departments. This is really about aligning the two departments so that they can work more closely together. So there's consistency of of fireground strategy and tactics, training protocols, budgets, payment policies, and organizational structure and operations. So it's really making the two departments not consolidated, but really to be able to work as closely together as they can. So those are the two areas of consolidation in this budget. If we look back to see how the consolidation of services is going, there's a couple of things you look at. One is efficiencies, just can you do things better? And the other one, which is nice to have, is can you save money as well? And over the past, since FYE 14 through 18, which is the budget we're in today, we saved significant money just by working smarter together between the town government and the village government. As far as objectives for this budget, for the FYE 2019, we wanted to, first and foremost, ensure that a continued delivery of quality services to the community. And you'll see later in here that in the police, public works, parks, and IT departments, some additional changes needed to be made in order to ensure that those quality services continue. I mentioned that we're looking for efficiencies of delivery in human resources and the fire department. One thing we do also in this budget, and we have for quite some time, is we treat depreciation as an operating expense. So similar to what you would do for your own budget at home for a big expense coming up, you're going to want to save for that. So we save for known future expenses for the big ticket items such as vehicles and equipment, road maintenance and paving, infrastructure, and stormwater structures, which are needed in order to keep the lake clean. So by doing that, you can plan ahead and not have to borrow money from a bond or something for a known purchase that you're going to make in the future. For example, dump trucks are not cheap, and we know how long they're going to last. They're going to last 12 years. We put money aside so that when year 12 comes, we're ready to purchase that from funds we have and not have to borrow that. One of the advantages of that is that you can have a more predictable budget. It doesn't go up and down depending on if you need to get a truck or things paved. The other objective, which we're very sensitive to, is to minimize the impact on tax rate. Unfortunately, cost of things do go up each year, but we are very sensitive to that to try to minimize that impact. So if we just look in this year's budget, the FYE 2019, and see what kind of savings we can expect in this budget from just working smarter together between the village and the town, again, we can save some significant money, just again, by working smarter. So this page is showing you the brass tacks now of what the high level of the budget is. The total proposed budget this year is $14.3 million. That's an increase of $595,000 over last year's budget. In percentages, that's 4.34%. The estimated increase in net tax rate, because there's some offsetting revenues, it's just under 3%. And again, in this budget, there's about $320,000 saved by consolidation. That's not money we're generating, that's just money we don't have to then raise via taxes, just because we're, again, working together in a smarter way. So let's dig down and see what caused the $595K increase. And the majority, this page shows the majority of increases in our budget, and you can see pretty easily that the most significant increases in the salaries and budget line. Also, some insurance went up, liability and workers' comp. The stormwater and village highway, which is now, as you know, part of the town budget, went up 2%. And the human services, which the good people of Essex said that they want 1% of whatever the budget is to go towards human services for programs and 501c3s that help our residents, and that's up. Also, the contribution we put towards Essex Rescue is up. They've been trying to get to Essex Rescue has been trying to get to a per capita cost basis for all the towns that they serve, and this budget gets us now up to that level at per capita that they needed. So these are the main increases in this budget and decreases that total the 595. So let's continue to drill down further and understand what's going on in the salaries and benefits line, which, as you can see, is about 97% of that increase. So this is where this is the page I want to spend a few minutes on. It'll highlight the staffing changes that are needed in order to ensure that we have continued delivery of quality services. And the first thing is FTE. What is an FTE? That means full-time equivalent. So one FTE is equal to one employee working full-time. And counting FTEs is a way. There's other ways, but it's a way to normalize the tracking of headcount. So I'd like to start first with the police department, where we're requesting 2 FTEs in that department. The police have become almost completely reactive to calls for public safety services due to current staffing needs. It's difficult for them to find time to do the proactive policing details such as speed enforcement, which we often get requests for, business checks, and community policing. When you look at other towns that have police departments and say what's the ratio of police officers to the public, Simler's town of 2.1 officers per 1,000 residents, and in Essex we have 1.33 per 1,000. That creates potential morale and retention issues in a department. The addition of these 2 would bring us from 1.33 up to 1.45, so it's in the right direction, but it's still well below. And if I recall, and Pat might be able to help me here, I think we have 27 sworn officers today, and I think when Pat started back in 1990 or so, there were, I think, 26 or so. Okay, he's giving me a thumbs up, so that's right. So we haven't added very many sworn officers at all. So what we're looking at in this budget for these 2 is to start 1 officer at the beginning of the fiscal year, which is July 1st of 2018, and then have the second one start halfway through this proposed fiscal year in January 1st, 2019, and that would be at a cost of $147,000 for both salaries and benefits. So I'm going to stay on this page and now talk about the IT department, where we're looking to add 0.6 full-time equivalent. The IT department currently supports 157 users across many locations within both the town and the village. That's up from 115 users back just a couple of years ago, so if you do the quick math there, that's a 37% increase in the number of users. Now, the former part-time IT director was also a captain in the police department, and that's Rick Gary, who's our new police chief. Chief Gary's IT cost in the department to the town was 0.4 FTE, but I can tell you he did more like 1 FTE with all the work that he put in. It was well beyond the 0.4. So the new technician position would allow the department to do more trainings of the users, enable more or further efficiencies, and not just be focused on putting out IT fires that anyone who uses a computer knows happens. So the increase of the 0.6 would better accommodate those additional users. Again, they're up 37% from just a couple of years ago. So what we're looking, in summary, is for the IT network administrator position to go away. That was 1 FTE, put that to 0. Add an IT technician, where this technician would also support village-only departments. Therefore, the village is willing to kick in 34% of the salary for the IT technician from the village. We'd like to move the IT director from what was effectively a full-time equivalent but paid at 0.4 to a full-time equivalent, and not start this technician, though, until 3/4 of the year through the 2019 budget. So when you do this, it actually causes a reduction, and that's why that 12,000 is in green. It actually decreases the budget by 12,000 by adding the technician in this manner, again, delaying it so it doesn't get the full impact of the salary on this year. Continuing on this page is HR services, and currently the HR is done on a part-time basis from an HR coordinator / administrative assistant to the manager's office. And in recent times, the town has identified significant need for a full-time HR person. And if you look at neighboring towns, they've had full-time HR, many of them had full-time HR people for many years. The HR director would provide human resources services to village employees, and currently it's actually the clerk that provides HR services to village employees. And by having this full-time HR director would allow the clerk to focus on primary clerk duties. Just looking at some of the benefits and administration that requires more attention from this HR director would be, for example, job descriptions need to be updated. Employee relations functions have actually taken a back seat to the day-to-day admin duties. Team building and training, succession planning, which is vital for any organization, is a bit behind plan. And lack of a thorough orientation system to onboard new employees. So the HR director could help focus on these areas. So in summary, we're saying let's get rid of the HR coordinator admin assistant, take that from 1 FET to 0, create an HR director where, again, because this person would also be providing HR services to village-specific departments, that the village would pay 34% of the salary for this position, and then have an admin assistant at just half-time and start them on 7/1 at the beginning of the fiscal year at a cost of $32,000 to this budget. Moving on to the top right, looking at Public Works Department and the half FTE. Currently, the operations is falling short, especially for snow plowing and roads and sidewalks. They've been getting by with temporary employees, which get trained every year, and skills are difficult to pick up, and that's at the expense of property, perhaps your lawn, or the equipment too. And there's very expensive equipment that's used that gets damaged and requires to be out of commission and get repaired. And when they're low on staffing, the superintendent will pick up the slack, but at the expense of doing the superintendent's main duties. So in summary, for the Public Works Department, we'd like that 0.5 FTE increase by taking the temporary staff and doing away with that position. It's a half FTE. And then create this technician position where 75% of the salary and benefits actually would be paid by the Water and Sewer Enterprise Fund, because the water and sewer groups needs help in the spring and summer when the crews are not plowing the streets. So that would be 75% paid by an enterprise fund, which is not funded by taxes. That's funded by the users of the water and sewer. So this position would start on the beginning of the fiscal year at a cost of $15,000 to this budget for salaries and benefits. And lastly but not least is the parks area, where we're looking for a third of an FTE for an assistant parks foreman, because parks facilities maintenance is not just a part-time service. The fall cleanups often currently go on hold, leaving parks unkempt, and these needs extend into the late fall and winter. Cleanup and prep for spring actually happens in the winter months, and winter tree cleanup and pruning is currently limited because of lack of a full-time person there. And when you have seasonal crews, sometimes you can split them up, but if you don't have an assistant parks foreman to head that crew, sometimes that's difficult without having a leader. So in the parks area, to address these shortfalls in the service delivery, we're looking to add a third FTE, 0.33, for an assistant to parks foreman, and start that in the beginning of the fiscal year, and the salaries and benefits would total $47,000 for this position. So I wanted to stay on this page a bit because this is really where we're addressing the what our objective was to ensure continued quality services, and there's a need here. If you look in the annual report, you see a lot of people have actually, a lot of folks have left and retired. I think there are 11 of them, and they average about 27 years of experience. And those experienced people have been able to really tuck a lot of work into their work schedule because they're very experienced at that. So we feel that this is a prudent way to ensure continued quality services for the community. There's also some other reasons why salaries and benefits went up, which I've identified here. With the current staffing, the salary increase would be $211,000 or 3.78%. Anytime there's an increase in minimum wage, there's a ripple effect that goes on, because if you have a new person in the department starting at minimum wage and you have an experienced person starting at minimum wage, it can actually create some issues. So there's often a ripple effect. I talked about aligning the fire departments, and there were some discrepancies between how the village funded the fire department and how the town did, and we're trying to align those so that they're equivalent. The school system knows how difficult it is to find trained bus drivers this past beginning of the school year. It's difficult to find senior bus drivers. We needed to make the wages competitive in order to attract and retain drivers of the senior buses, which many people rely on. We've done a survey and classification, or a salary and classification survey a couple of years ago to look and see where our staff is positioned relative to other departments in the area, not just local area. And we were pretty much centered, except for one, which was quite a bit behind, which was addressed. We're going to do another classification and salary survey in this year's budget to ensure that they're paid about in the middle of the salary curve, to ensure that we can retain them and attract them, but not go not go broke. Anytime salaries go up, benefits go up as well. They were increased to $139,000 or 5.8%. Health insurance premiums go up. There's a thing called VEMRs. There's an actuarially determined contributions have increased. We use data to determine how that gets funded, and that's a Vermont Municipal Employees Retirement System. And to help contain costs, we're asking the employees to pay an increased share of their health care premiums, as many people do. So that was the other side of why the salaries and benefits had increased some. So what's the impact on the tax rate? And in this budget, the estimated tax rate would be 51.28 cents per $100 of assessed value. That's an increase in the tax rate of 1.48 cents per $100 value of assessed value. To the average taxpayer, that equates to about $41 per year. And in order to get that average taxpayer, there's some assumptions you have to make. And one is that it's for an average residence value in our community equivalent to $280,000. How fast does a grand list grow. We're conservatively saying 1%. Sometimes it's significantly more than that. Most years it is, but we're being conservative to say it's 1%. If it's greater, then that tax rate impact is decreased. And this year, as we've done for the past number of years, we're adding money from the fund balance as a revenue to this budget. There was money above the 15% fund balance that we try to maintain. And that's 15% of whatever the operating budget is. We want to have in a fund balance. That goes to if people are behind on taxes. If we didn't have that, everyone who got behind, we'd have to do a tax sale on them. That's not something we ever want to have to resort to. That's a last resort thing. But we do those. We continue to do those, but we'd have to be much more aggressive if we didn't have a fund balance. Also, if things went awry and something happened, that money is there so you don't have to borrow. But just to put it in perspective, that's about 8 weeks of operating funds on this budget, that 15%. But my point is we put in $150,000 this year as a revenue to the fund balance, which actually brings down the tax rate some. Excuse me. This page, there's a more detailed version of this chart in your book in page 55 of the report, but it's showing that for the average $280,000 home in Essex, the estimated municipal tax bill, excluding what you pay for schools, just the municipal piece in the $280,000 home is $1,436. And you can see that public safety and highways takes greater than 50% of that alone. I just want to go over the highlights of what that 1,436 supports, $1,436 of tax supports. It provides 24/7 police, public safety and dispatch services, 24/7 fire protection and first responder services, 24/7 ambulance services, which are enabled through the town's contributions to Essex Rescue, a vital service. It supports winter snow plowing of streets and sidewalks, maintenance of about 75 miles of roads. There's a number of bridges, 1,840 plus stormwater structures, many buildings, vehicles, and equipment. We have an excellent library that offers educational programs and research assistance to the community. Senior busing and activities, which with a very rapidly growing senior membership. Public transportation, public bus transportation enabled through town's contributions to Green Mountain Transit, formerly CCTA. It also enables us to do capital budget expense and savings planning for future capital expenses. As I said, saving for known large expenses so we can use money that we've collected over time, knowing that expense is coming. So all these services and more are delivered by the dedicated and talented staff that we have here in our community. So I wanted to just give you an idea as to what the pie chart looks like, what the different areas are in the government where money goes to, and what that provides. So I hope that was short, but that you kind of understand at least a high level of what's in that budget. So thank you for your attention on that. Appreciate it.
All right, Linda made the motion for that, so you're allowed first to speak if you would like on the budget.
I think this is a very thoughtful budget. I think the Select Board has taken a look at the people of the town of Essex and their ability to pay, and I know that everyone says, well, everything's going up, and it is. But perhaps when you want to support your community and when you want your community services to support you, sometimes things have to go up. So I think they did an excellent job. Thank you for the Select Board. and I hope everyone supports the budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Would anybody else like to speak to Article 2? Going to go with the man in the back first.
Hi. I was curious if my
Can you
math
please
is-
state your name?
John Wormer.
Thank you.
Do you plan to go to 40 police officers in the next couple of years, the next decade, to meet that 2 for every 1,000 members of the populace?
All right, hang on a second, Max.
So just to make sure I understand the question. You're asking if we want to get up to the 2.1?
Yeah.
No, not. We know that we need the 2 to get up to be able to do the services that the community needs, but they do an incredible job with the limited staff they have, and we have the community supported the building of that police facility, and I think that the police respect and appreciate the support from the community. So we're going to stick with those 2 for now. Again, we had 26 back in 1990 and 27 now. We're going to just hopefully add these 2 this year.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Bob.
Yes, Robert Bates. I'm very concerned about this ratio, and not so much about the ratio, but for everybody in this room that depends on our police for protection. Frankly, I was horrified when I read the front page article in the Reporter last week. I didn't realize how bad it was. Do you realize, folks, that on weekend nights we have 2 officers out there on patrol with no supervisor? 2 for a town of 21,000 people. That's scary. I know they can call in backup. I worked in this building for 16 years, and I had a chance to interact as a counselor here with police officers very often. You don't know how often they're called into this building. Thankfully, we haven't had a Parkland, Florida in this building. We had a bad situation back in 2006 at the elementary school. You never know. But these folks are here doing preventive work that helps us avoid some of that kind of situation. And if they're no longer able to do that, I tell you, it's scary. So my question, I guess, Max, maybe you can help on this. If we were to start the two new officers as of July 1, rather than wait on one of them until next January, what difference would there be in that $147,000 increase? How much more would it cost?
Yep. All right.
Can you give me some estimate?
Lauren, I think you probably have a good estimate on that. How much? 45. About 45,000.
Okay.
To have it both start on July 1.
Okay. Then I would like to amend this budget figure by adding that $45,000 to the current proposed figure that's on the floor.
So you're making a motion to amend?
I am making that amendment, I guess it is. Yes, to amend that figure by an additional $45,000, with the intent being that we start a second officer in July.
Okay. Is there a second? Right. David Keenan. All right. Obviously, you've already talked about it. So now, at this point in time, because there's been a motion made and seconded, we are only discussing the amendment to raise the town budget by $45,000. I'm going to restate. The motion is to raise the town budget by $45,000 with the intent that, obviously, the select board has final say, with the intention of trying to start one of the second police officer in July 1 instead of Jan 1. All right. Would you like to speak to that amendment?
I believe it's still tied to it.
Yep, go ahead. Then.
So Stephen Gregg. And I was hoping for some clarification on some of those numbers that were put up in front of us, especially in the police department, salaries and benefits.
Do you have the page and line number that you're asking
Page
about?
63. It's It's line numbers 250 and 251, so police salaries and police benefits. I understand with the slide that followed some of those breakdowns and step increases and raises and such, but the number that was most notably put in front of us was $147,000 increase for the 2 FTEs, and it was stated that that was for salaries and benefits. The difference between the estimated for FY 18 and FY 19 for the combination of salaries and benefits is actually, from the numbers on the page here, $345,600, and I was just looking for some clarification on where that money was, especially in relation to adding an additional $45,000 to start this officer early.
Okay, let me get Lauren. I think Max would like you to answer that.
There are normal salary increases.
I don't think they can hear you.
Normal salary increases are part of that.
Okay.
So-
Plus the change in the captain to the chief. So that's part of it as well.
So normal salary increases are part of that number, in case people couldn't hear that.
Okay, I just didn't know if there was any kind of breakdown or numbers, or if there was any information supporting that, because just the salaries is $211,767 increase, and I know the normal raises and stuff for the town said it was around the $211,000 mark on its own, or as the whole town.
We have a lot of detail if you'd like to study it.
Okay, and you said that was just for the increase for captain to chief?
Some of that was in the back.
Okay.
Some and then normal salary increases.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
My name's Henry Gaber. I'm not familiar with what's going on with the police department, but it sounds like, I'm sure the police department was involved in this decision to add these 2 officers in a staggered position. I'm sure the selectmen and our officers, our elected officials have got a plan in place, so I would be opposed to adding an increase and trying to move that forward unless there was a call for it from the police department itself.
All right, thank you very much.
To continue, Richard Smith, excuse
Thank
me.
you.
So to continue speaking on the increase for the police, a 3.1% raise would be $80,000 when you add in the benefits. So there's still $120,000 gap there.
Yep.
Plus what we're talking about adding, so $160-something thousand gap.
Thank you. And discussion on the amendment to raise the budget $45,000.
Go ahead, I want to speak something else, or we're still talking about that.
You can only, right now, until we vote on it, that's all we can talk about. Any other discussion on the amendment on the floor? All right, seeing none, we'll go to a vote, just like last time. I'm going to restate. So there's a motion to amend the town budget to increase it $45,000 with the intention to try and pull in the second police position earlier in the year to July 1. All those in favor of the amendment, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay? Nay. I think that's close enough to call for a division. So in this case, what I'm going to ask people to do is we're going to have the ayes stand first and then the nays, and the Board of Civil Authority will count one at a time. It just takes a couple minutes. And don't sit down until I tell you. So, because it can get confusing. So all those in favor of the amendment, please stand. And anyone from the BCA, Tim German, would like to come to the front. It's covered in the back, Tom. Tim, is someone going to signal me when you're ready?
Mr. Moderator?
Yes. Okay, now let's change, and all the no votes, please stand. If you're within 4 to 6, you're supposed to. I didn't even shout. Because I don't want it. I'm so close to it. Yeah. Technically, if you're within 4 to 6, it's supposed to. Sorry. Get it precise. Oh, yeah, you don't want to get it wrong. Yeah. Okay, you may sit down. All right, the results of the vote was 147 ayes, 95 nays. The motion to amend carries. So now, let me read Article 2 as amended. Shall the town adopt a budget for the fiscal year July 1, 2018 to June 30, 2019, as recommended by the Select Board in the amount of $14,344,932? All right, we are now continuing debate. I know there was a person over here that, did you want to talk now? You had gotten up before, and then we'll... So now you can talk about anything dealing with the budget.
Yeah, my name is John Gaisley. Just looking at a couple of things on page 8, you've had 11 people retire, a lot of them with a lot of years of service. Then I'm looking at the next page over, which is page 14. Shows 78 employees. One, of course, is Pat, which doubles on both sides, but the 11 people retired, have they been replaced with these 78?
Yeah, they've been replaced.
Okay, I've got a guy here with 26 years of service, 27, 37. I assume they're all retired to go to Florida or take it easy, play golf? Okay.
Jeff, what's the specific question?
What I'm saying then is you've got a guy here with 37 years, 26 years of service. Is he being replaced at the same salary, at the same step increases?
Their salary is commensurate with their skill level. They wouldn't necessarily be paid the same amount as the position that they left.
Yeah, but a lot of your salaries, aren't they on step increases? So many
There's
years of
step
service.
increases, yes. There's merit and some step increases in the salary.
Okay, so if I worked for you guys 27 years and I get paid, say, $100,000, and a guy's worked for you for 5 years, are you going to pay him the $100,000?
I don't know what the salary scale is, but no, they don't. When an experienced person vacates their position, and if somebody comes in that's junior to that by many years on their skills or the years of experience, then no, they would not necessarily be started at that same rate.
All right.
But yeah,
The 78 people on this list, have they all been with you a long time? Are we getting a lot of turnover?
Is your question, do we get a lot of turnover?
Yeah, the 78 people here, are they been there a long time? Do you get a lot of turnover?
There were 11 identified on page.
No, on the 78 people. Are any of these new employees? Do you get a lot of turnover in this?
I don't know what the turnover rate is.
I guess my point is, yes, we have good people working for us, et cetera, but are you paying more than needs to be paid? You say you're in the middle.
Yeah, according to the classification and salary survey, that's the data that we use to look at how our people are being compensated. And we did it a couple of years ago, and they came out, as I said earlier, about in the middle, and we're going to be doing another one this year.
Okay, so we don't have a lot of people leaving because pay's too low.
Right. That's the they leave for various reasons. I don't have all the reasons of why they leave, but when they're eligible for retirement, they want to maybe, as you said, move to Florida, they can do that. Yep.
Go ahead.
My name is Dick Boera, B-O-E-R-A. Just on page 59, Select Board. I'm not questioning that huge salary increase, by the way. I think they all earn it. And the chairman's presentation was superb. Thank you, sir. Last year I asked about professional salaries or professional services on that Select Board budget, and was told naturally that it was for the search expenses. Are you expecting a search this coming year?
Yeah. And just for the people in the audience, that's line 101 on page 59. Go ahead.
No, we're quite happy with Evan. Thank you.
Will they be
But to answer your question, there's 19,000 in there for that salary and classification survey this year. So that's in our budget.
I see.
Right?
Okay.
15,000.
But there'll be a little savings in there, I assume.
I'm sorry, savings from?
Oh, you're saying that increase was all due to the survey?
For this year's budget, yes, that the increase is the survey, yeah.
Okay, can I have two follow-up questions?
Go ahead.
On the town manager's lines.
So what line number is that?
110 and 111.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken, there was an IT position moved from the town manager's budget to the finance budget last year. Is that why there's a big switch in salaries between those two functions?
Laura.
Last year it went out of finance and went into its own department.
Sorry.
I'll repeat it.
Last year, the IT position went out of the finance.
Last year, it went out of the finance
Went out
department.
of the finance department and went into its own department, so
Okay, so
information management is.
it's not a new position, just a move of the money.
It moved from one department to another, if you couldn't hear that.
And lastly, on tax collection on the next page, I'm just curious, printing and binding, that's not for the town report. What is bound in the tax collection area?
It's not, it's kind of a bad name for that account. It's actually our tax billing.
So it's for the tax billing.
Tax billing.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Stephen Gregg again. So I just want to say, I am in support of public safety. I'm even more in support of knowing exactly where all our money is going. And I want to have a clarifying question on line number 384.
What page?
That's page 65, and that's the donation to Essex Rescue. So in the presentation, we were told we're increasing that donation by $22,000, which I think is deserved. They are providing more services, meeting a higher demand than ever. But here in the budget, it appears to be a proposed increase of $16,175. I don't know if there was a difference between the prepared presentation and when the report was prepared.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank In my chart, there was actually two things. It was the human services and donation to Essex Rescue in that line that increased on my chart. I think it was 22,000, right?
Essex Rescue is about 16,000.
Okay. Okay, so Essex Rescue was 16.
I see that now. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Any other comments on Article 2 as amended? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to vote. I'm going to restate Article 2 as amended. Shall the town adopt a budget for the fiscal year July 1, 2018 to June 30, 2019, as recommended by the Select Board in the amount of $14,344,932? All those in favor of Article 2 as amended signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay? Nay. The ayes have it. Article 2 is passed. We'll now move on to Article 3. Shall the voters of the town of Essex authorize the creation of a conservation reserve fund, subject to the Conservation Reserve Fund policy? Do I have a motion for Article 3? Name? Dustin Brusso. Do we have a second? Tom Pearl. All right. You moved the motion. You moved the article. You may speak to it first. Okay. Great. Who would like to be the first person to speak to Article 3?
My name is Walter Lang. I have a question on your policy and the contributions to the fund. You state on number 3 that a fund balance transfer in on line item 2, a line item transfer from the operating budget. Does that mean those line items have to be designated as a conservation fund, or are we just opening this up so that you have a slush fund that you can pull out of the general budget?
Go ahead.
The policy was set up to be flexible, to be able to accept revenues from many different places, not just from tax revenues. But as we do with capital, you could do an operation transfer into it if that's what the Select Board agreed to. It can take donations. It's made to be flexible. The Conservation Fund policy was worked on based on a lot of surveys and understanding about what the public was looking for, and one of the things was to ensure that it's not just from tax revenue. So it was set up to be flexible in where revenues come from, and I think as an example it was just operation transfer.
Thank you. Other questions or comments on Article 3? All right, looks like people are ready to vote on Article 3. Let me restate it. Shall the voters of the town of Essex authorize the creation of a conservation reserve fund, subject to the Conservation Reserve Fund policy? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. Article 3 passes. That takes us to Article 4. If the Conservation Reserve Fund is created, shall the voters of the town of Essex allocate $15,000 to the fund in FYE 2019? Do I have a motion for Article 4? Paula Duke moves. And is there a second? John Shepherd. All right, would you like to speak to it? Okay. Who would like to be the first person to speak to Article 4? All right. No questions tonight on Article 4. So we can move forward to vote on it. I will restate Article 4. If the Conservation Reserve Fund is created, shall the voters of the town of Essex allocate $15,000 to the fund in FYE 2019? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Article 4 passes. All right, so now we move on to Article 5. And I'd like to remind a couple of reminders. The first is that we have the Australian ballot election tomorrow, March 6th, from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. in the usual voting locations. And we have election of 2 positions. One's a moderator for a 1-year term and a select board member for a 3-year term. So please remember to vote if you haven't already voted with early voting. Secondly, with Article 5, just a reminder, you can bring up issues to the select board, concerns, or general announcement. But remember, because it's not warned, you can't have binding action. So with that being said, is there anyone that would like to make a statement at this time for Article 5? Go ahead, come on down to the mic.
Marie Froschel. So my question is about 200, based on the division of the House, there were 242 people that voted on in the division of the House. There are approximately 20,000 people in this town. So my question has to do with, and I'm not good at math, I haven't figured out if we represent 1% or 10% of the registered voters of the town, but I know it's not much. And my question is, what's happening with the charter change so that this becomes an informational meeting and we vote on the budget by Australian ballot on town meeting day?
Someone that wants to take that. Or you don't have to. Okay.
Oh, do you want me to spell it?
We didn't
Froschel. F-R-O-E-S-C-H-L. I have to do that a lot.
Mike is going to answer that question.
Thank you for the question. We have a joint meeting between the Select Board and the trustees on the 24th of this month. It's a Saturday, and it was scheduled so that as many of you that wanted to attend could attend. During that meeting, one of the topics of discussion is going to be the future of governance in the town and the village. And with that, we are going to be talking, as time goes, we will be talking about having the ability to be able to vote on the budget by Australian ballot. That was a committee that was formed a couple of years ago. We had to kind of step back from the work on that committee because we needed to find a new manager. And that was a little bit more pressing. But now that that has been taken care of, we anticipate moving forward on this question. And again, it starts on the 24th of March. It will begin the discussion between the Select Board and the village trustees.
So just a follow-up question. does that mean the select board and the village trustees get to make that decision, or does this, I understood some places this had to go to the legislature?
Any charter change has to go to the legislature, yes, ma'am. And there will be probably several that will be part of this discussion. I don't know exactly how many, but what we're trying to do is to discuss this and bring it along far enough so that whatever number of charter changes we have, we can do all at once.
Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead, Jerry.
Jerry Fox. As poor as this turnout is, I would suggest that at least the people who are here and voted knew what they were voting on. If you go to an Australian ballot, the people who you will have a lot bigger vote, but they won't have any idea what they're doing. Thank you.
My name's Henry Gaber. I agree with the gentleman. I'm a native Vermonter, and I'm in favor of town meetings where we can make alterations to the budget like we did tonight. I'm just going to throw this out, and I shouldn't, but the environment we're in. But I saw somewhere where their selectmen are talking about revisiting discharge of firearms within town. And so since we got a whole new select board, then I was at a meeting with them 15, 20 years ago when we discussed this. At the time, we did have a gentleman that was shot in his house. So I just want to throw this out, a seed to think about when you get into these discussions. My suggestion then is the same as my suggestion now. I'm not in favor of making many changes to that, but one ordinance that I think might be very beneficial is that to discharge a firearm, you either have to have a hunter safety course, or somebody has to be present that's had a hunter safety course. The hunter safety course is required to get a hunting license, so if you have a hunting license, you have it. What that does is that makes sure that somebody there, when you're doing this, understands the policies of safe shooting, your background target, everything else. Plus, it throws a little bit, I guess, of responsibility on them to make sure that everybody there is discharging the firearm properly. So just a suggestion that one thing that, I don't know how legally to do it, but if there was just an ordinance that said to discharge a firearm, you need a hunter safety, a license, or a hunter safety, which means you got a hunter safety, or somebody present. In other words, you have all your buddies over and do all the shooting you want, but at least somebody there knows what they're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Robert.
Yeah, Robert Bates. I'd just like to refer folks to page 76. In your report, this is a section on the minutes of last year's meeting. And you will see there that, and I've been doing this for the last 4 or 5 years, presenting the notion of a hybrid town meeting. That was discussed as part of the Essex governance group, which Max and Irene and Elaine all were a part of, and the town funded a facilitator. We had a big community forum. Anyway, what a hybrid meeting is in a nutshell. We don't make town meeting informational, because the gentleman's concern was mine also. An informational meeting has no teeth. So we keep town meeting the way it is. You can come and amend the budget. Hey, I did that tonight. I don't want to lose that opportunity. And we come up with a budget figure, but then that figure is placed on an Australian ballot down the road, ideally, maybe at the same time we vote on our school budgets in April, and we have an opportunity for more people. For example, those who are serving in the military, those who can't come out on a winter evening. So they can go on and on and on and on. So take a moment, and we actually passed a non-binding resolution supporting our select board to look into that hybrid town meeting idea last year. Again, it's on page 76 and 77. I won't belabor the point by going over it completely. But I hope that in the meeting on the 24th, that model will be one of those that's discussed. We're not simply asking to go to an Australian meeting and throw out this town meeting. I wouldn't want to see that either. And there is a difference between the hybrid idea and just plain going to Australian ballot. So thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Hello. I've gotten a chance to meet some of you I have not. My name is Timothy Farr, for the record. I am a candidate for Select Board. And I'm impressed by the way folks have come in here tonight and spoke their minds. There's a lot of folks who are concerned about accountability, it sounds like, for your elections. That doing a voice vote is not enough accountability. And I appreciate that, and I think there's something to be said about that. But also, when you have a paper ballot, an Australian ballot, there's folks who come out on election day, and they may not be totally informed about the policies at hand. And so you get a ballot that's written in all legalese, that's written by lawyers, that's not in layman's speak, and you got folks voting on stuff that they may not quite comprehend or may have not have had a chance to discuss. And I think that's what leads to the importance of town meeting day. It's a tradition that Vermont has participated in well before it was part of the Union, and it's a very strong tradition, and I'm proud to be a part of that. I'm proud to be a Vermonter. I just wanted to take a moment, if I may, just to say it's been an honor running as a candidate in this election.
You shouldn't talk about candidacy stuff.
Well, I
Okay.
just want to speak to the public for a second, and I just really think that it's important that the public get out there and always research all the facts. Research the facts about your candidates, research their histories, research. The public has a right to be informed on everything, and to try to stump out the voices of the voters by throwing a bunch of money at one candidate. That's not democracy.
I think you're going a little far here.
But no, I just thank you all. It's been an honor, and I just hope that
All right.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Moshe.
Hi, my name is Moshe Brunner. I want to get back to the governance issue, and I have another angle on it, and I've been talking about it for a long, long time. Since I moved to Essex 26 years ago this month, I've been asking, why are all the towns around us voting on the school budgets in March, and we vote on the school budget in April? And there were all kinds of excuses that may have made some sense 20-some years ago, but they are long, long, long gone. And so I've made some noises about it and gotten nowhere, but last time I talked with the head of the new school district board, last year I was told that instead of moving the school vote to March, which is what I've always said would make sense, there is talk about moving the town budget vote to April, as we just heard in the hybrid model, which may be a good idea. I'm not sure what I think of that, but the fact that the town governance issue is talking about that was an excuse to put off the school board talking about moving their time for yet another year. Now I hear that, to my dismay, that even despite the straw poll in the last year's town meeting, that basically nothing was done about this on the town side for the whole year. I'm glad there's a meeting coming up this month, but why not last January? Last February, March, whatever month is. The years go by so fast that I'm kind of despairing that there will be a united vote on the two big budgets we vote on the same day in my lifetime. And I think that is a shame, because people complain that we only have 200 and some people in the town meeting. Well, often we only have about less than 1,000 people voting on the school budget, which is our biggest town expense. And the percentage may be a little higher than the people who come here to this face-to-face meeting, but it's still shockingly low, especially when you compare with a lot of other towns. And I think part of the reason for the low turnout in all our elections is the splintering into multiple dates. So I feel very strongly that we need to give some priority to consolidation of our voting dates all around.
Thank you, Moshe. Go ahead.
Hello again. No numbers this time, folks. So regional dispatch, it was a big enough item that the town printed a sheet about it, and we are not voting on it tomorrow, and it was not an article warned tonight. I personally feel that it's important that any time there's a discussion that we may be joining into something or down the line, or it's in the development process, it's important for our community to have input and be part of that development process, so that way this service can best serve us as members of the community. It seems like public safety is a big topic tonight, so I would like to take the opportunity to take a non-binding survey who is in favor for the town pursuing joining the regional dispatch.
So as you said, it's non-binding, and we can just have people quickly raise their hands just to get a sense in the room of people are interested in the regional dispatch. Raise your hand if you think that's something. Okay, there you go. Thank you, everyone. All right, anybody else? All right, looks like we've gotten through all the business. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Darrell, second. Paula Duke. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. We are adjourned.